So avoid greed in all its forms. I'd like to share an opinion with you of mine that I think that most of all the problems in the world, whether it's global warming, massive poverty, unequal distribution of goods, descend from a inordinate hunger for objects, from greed. It's certainly a major temptation of all of us, including myself. We live in this wonderful world of fantasy, of things. So what's wrong of having our lives chase them? Well, I'm not talking, of course, about reasonable enjoyment of good things of life. That's a virtue. But greed is an inordinate and insatiable longing, especially for wealth, status, and power. An inordinate desire to acquire and possess more than what one needs. The great writer Erich Fromm described greed as a bottomless pit which exhausts the person in an endless effort to satisfy the need without ever reaching satisfaction. Jesus challenges us to think that our security will be found in the passionate pursuit of things, the center of our life. And it just doesn't work that way. What we need to do is develop a certain sense of detachment from things. We need perspective, but greed distorts. We need hope, but greed disappoints. We need positive growth, but greed tends to destroy. So let's take a few moments and meditate on this, what it might mean for our lives. First of all, the idea of greed is that somehow I am center of the universe. My identity rests directly in the objects that surround me. That the human person is nothing but an epiphenomena of electrochemical processes, and all that matters is things outside us. It's all about me, me, me. Whatever a childish impulse wants to take over, that's what's important. It's a spirit of entitlement. So, what do we do in the face of this temptation? Well, first of all, as I say, we need a bit of detachment. That stems from the fundamental belief that I am a child of God, that I'm actually a sibling of Jesus. I have a divine and unique mission in life. I've been chosen, singled out, ordained to be an ambassador of the reign of a loving God to a broken world. I am a leader with Jesus as my model of service. I believe that that is the antidote to greed. That belief does not destroy, distort, or disappoint. If you'd like to say after me, without greed, I gain perspective on my life and real freedom. Without greed, I gain perspective on my life and real freedom. See, the problem is we can never achieve a goal that we continually, elusively escapes us on the horizon of the future. Each of us yearns for security, but we'll never find it in objects. As in the gospel, the only thing that will survive our physical death are the acts of the heart, the loving deeds of a good life. Other things simply cannot bear the weight of that call. The most they can do is point to the heart and prepare the ground for the spirit to grow. The sad thing is we can't hedge our bets. It's either one or the other. Either it's spirit and truth and love, or it's things. Love never fails. Greed disappoints. Solid values is the basis of living a life on God's terms. If you'd like to say after me. Being freed of greed helps me live life on life's terms. Being freed of greed helps me live life on life's terms. The beauty is that these love, that God's will, does not distort. I believe that every human being is of infinite value. And we believe that each of us, each person, the people sitting around you in church today, everyone is a child of God and has infinite value. This value is, it's a movement toward union. And things, yes, things are important, but they're important because they support people. My value is supporting the dignity of persons, and things are important to the extent that they help meet that goal. Because one's trust is in objects, the real values of relationship are downplayed and not secured and made strong. That's family, friends, community, marriages can be destroyed because heart values have been abandoned for things. An interesting source is Gandhi once said, "Today there is neither glorifying God nor peace on earth. As long as hunger is not yet stilled, and as long as we have not uprooted violence from our civilization, Christ has not been born." That was Gandhi. He had a real insight into Jesus' teaching of greed. There's nothing wrong with eating, drinking, resting, and making merry, but it's not a basis of happiness. We have to get involved in life in a positive, life-giving, loving ways. I remember I was in the 5th grade at Highland Park School in Salt Lake City, Utah, and it was library time, so I was sitting at a library table. And across the room, I heard the librarian say, "Joseph Kenna." Shocked. I stood up and I said, "I'm not doing anything." And of course, she said, "That's the problem, you're not doing anything." And that's with all of us. It's not enough just not to be doing evil. We need to get involved directly in life-giving, positive, loving ways. We need to look at what greed is doing to the very fabric of society, healthcare, education, family life. And the question is, do I really need to work 60 hours a week away from my spouse and children? We need to focus on what's important. Would you say after me? Where greed destroys, detachment energizes positive growth. Detachment energizes positive growth. See, the whole idea is to not live from the outside inside, but live from the heart to the outside. That's where we lose greed and live according to God's will and love. Greed is a result of a narcissistic entitlement that makes one feel absolutely deserving. It puts us in a trance of feeling the need to say yes to every glittering bauble. Priorities disappear in a shamble of senseless, frenetic scrambling. We become vulnerable to guilt, manipulation, and the unending demands of other people caught up in their own rat race. So what's the antidote to this inordinate hunger for objects? Well, of course, it's spirituality, and it's using Jesus as our model. And one of the gifts that Jesus gives us this morning is a word. It's a very tough word, and I've got to admit it's a tough word for me. And the word is no. Unless you can say no, you can't say yes, because you're just flat out dissipated in every direction. Beliefs lead to values, lead to behavior, and love is a belief that leads to solid values which empower behavior. It is the door, thank God, to life and life more abundantly. And the fact is that when each of us closes the book of our life and returns it to the Father who gave it to us in the beginning, there's only one thing that we will have in that book to take with us, and that is the acts of love and compassion that we have done in our lives, and all the objects will all be gone. So let us heed Jesus' call this morning to avoid greed in all its forms.